You know, when people talk about Valentine's Day, generally you would think of, sending gifts to your potential crush or, your partner slash spouse, girlfriend slash girlfriend. Um, but I think people also forget that it's also, your friends, loved ones also, they love you. But I think it's also adds to the fact that you can also love what you're doing, what you're passionate about, whether it be something in outdoor activities with sports, or it could be playing video games, or doing some sort of writing, editing, any of that stuff. Or it could be like me, trying to upload math content every other day for the viewers. But I think since I've grown up with math and being passionate, I don't think a lot of you people know about the story of why I love mathematics. So that'll be, today's vlog. And I know, when was the last time I done a vlog? I'd say over a year ago when I did a reaction, I'm pretty sure, to one of my first videos. But setting the pace, let's go back to, I guess, to the very time of when I started, elementary school. And I'd like to ask this question to you guys. Would you actually believe me if I said that I was actually terrible at math? Well, the answer is I was. Well, and I really shouldn't say I was in that sense because, there's a lot of things that I still don't know about math, in, today's universe. But I guess if we get down to the basic logistics and, logic of, how we build up this knowledge of math that everyone deems you and me to have. But yeah, starting from back then, it was a terrible time. Not, I wouldn't say like terrible in the sense of depressing, but like I had really a hard time like learning. And it wasn't just math. I was actually terrible at like all subjects. You name them, it was bad. But math wasn't actually my worst subject I was terrible at. It was actually reading and literature, reading comprehensions, literature writing. Yeah, I'm still terrible at that today. Such a shame, right? At 25 years old. But yeah, that went on for years. Well, we're going back to starting from when I was in kindergarten and then all the way up to like the elementary school. We're here in the United States. It ends at 5th grade. Well, it actually depends in some states because I hear that kindergarten through 6th grade is elementary school. But here in my state, it's from kindergarten to 5th grade. Yeah, that I was struggling the entire time throughout those 6 years of public school at the elementary level. It has to stem back from while I was in the 4th grade. Both of my parents decided to find me a private tutor. But actually, funny enough, that previous year, I was actually in another tutoring session for both reading and math, but no progress was made from there. I'm just going to say that it was a waste of money for my parents. I'm sorry for that, for wasting your money, mom and dad. But, I tried everything I could, but I don't know. I really shouldn't say it like that because it just makes me feel like I'm like feeling guilty. But at the same time, I was that type of person back in the past where I can never commit, and then I was not willing to learn anything because all I wanted to do for the entire time, like I didn't care about anything else or give a shit. I just wanted to play video games, watch TV, that sort of thing. I didn't care for anything else. I didn't want to socialize. I didn't want to, do any sort of sports, none of that. And, another thing, fun fact, my dad had to put me to swimming to, at least gain some sort of, help me gain some sort of, sport abilities. But I was never into that like competitive level. They just want me to learn because, it was one of those life lessons where you need to learn how to actually ride a bike or learn how to swim in terms of these, life situations, which it makes sense if you think about this. If we're going back to the 4th grade and, throughout these past 5 years, grades were, I'd say average. I was not like that top student that actually, was the genius or the nerd in the class. They both decided to find me a private tutor, but at first it wasn't for math. It was actually for reading/writing. Spoiler alert, I still did terrible at all of those. Well, the reading and writing specifically. Even up to today, I'm still terrible at that too, sadly. It wasn't as worse at, math wasn't as worse as compared to reading and writing, but then after a while they decided, mom and dad wanted me to put me into, private tutoring sessions for math itself. And that was when 6th grade came in, and then they put me in, this session. And I think that's where the buildup started to grow up, specifically more of like the affinity for math that I have. So I've been in this private tutoring session. Well, I had 2 tutors, and they're both husband and wife, and they actually do their own freelance tutoring. But I've been with them for, I'd say, a decade. I stopped ever since I finished my freshman year of college. Well, I stopped doing the reading after I finished high school, but I stopped doing freelance tutoring for math after my freshman year of college, because from there on out, I wanted to actually, do things on my own, instead of having to be dependent on others. But it took over time for me to, grow. So obviously, I think with that whole psychology, when it comes to like teenagers and that whole puberty, nobody really likes to learn, If you're at that age where, you want your own freedom, you want to do whatever you want, you just don't care for this, you don't care for that, which I, totally stand by. And, a lot of people I know, and then myself, I'm in that same page too. But it took a while for me to, build up and say that, oh, I actually like the subject. Here's the thing, here's what happened. Middle school, I'd say after 2 years, it got to that point where I actually, like around that time I was actually learning, like I say, algebra, pre-algebra, and that sort of thing. But I was actually really skilled at those at those courses, but I didn't really had any sort of interest for the courses itself. Like, you just asked me to solve it, I just know it, but I just don't care to like it. It took over time. That actually went on through high school as well. Algebra 1, or depending on some state, maybe they might, there's a certain order that they do it. I went through Algebra 1, then Geometry, Algebra 2, and then there's some other math courses that you can actually, branch off to. I know there's a class where you take is Advanced Functions and Modeling in my school, but I jumped into pre-calc because Advanced Functional Modeling is more like, it's a pre-calc, if you think of it in that sense. So, but my pre-calc class, that was like an honors class. And then I jumped to calculus, which interestingly, I got a D in the AB section. I was originally both enrolled in both the AB and the BC, but AB was really doing damage to like my GPA and all that, so I had to stop. But funny enough, I actually did take the advanced placement course, and I think I scored a 2. Yeah, calculus was, at that time, obviously, it was new to me. Algebra, if I want to take a step back just for a little bit, algebra I had no problem with. Algebra 2 I had no problem with. Geometry was, geometry, I think anybody can agree with this in saying it's a way of trying to introduce you to proofs, but not exactly like to that higher extent. It's just to get you an idea of how it gives you a format of, you do step 1, step 2, step 3, how do we jump from here to here? That gives you that whole outline. But it took a while for me to get used to, but I was never really into geometry like that, even today. I can say this, I did take geometry for one of my college classes, but I dropped out because it just didn't make sense to me. I mean, it was a whole new turn of, math that it wasn't like kind of like in that niche that I was looking for, if you know what I'm saying. Going back to the calculus I took in high school, I got a D, and yeah, it really dropped my GPA down. And calc at the time when I was learning it was actually difficult, because I'm sure you notice if anybody has taken AP calculus in your own class, it goes fast. Like, the learning pace is super duper fast for me to like catch up. But I think it's also my own fault for not actually trying to commit and learn as well, because I think I had this mind and overestimating, thinking that like kind of like I was kind of being this cocky asshole, like, oh, I got this. This is a piece of cake. Math is math. It's like, what's the worst that could happen? But no, you can't always judge things too easily. But yeah, that was a fun time. Not really, but it was funny enough because at that year I was doing private tutoring with a private tutor, and he was still teaching me calculus because it was better for me to help extend that knowledge by the time I actually go to college. Because for me, that at that time when I was a computer science major, I had to take a calculus class. So even though when I told him that that's actually more the prerequisite to like learn the major, you need calculus, calc 1 and 2 specifically, and well, you also need to learn linear algebra as well, in that inclusion. Yeah, so I spent that one semester of calculus and I failed. dropped the BC portion. So the second semester that I had no math classes. So instead, my whole semester was dedicated to me just learning everything from calculus 1 and 2, everything you learn from functions itself, limits, derivatives, all those applications of derivatives, and then integrals especially. And I don't think at that time when I was doing the private sessions, I was learning stuff like applications of physics would work, or even like sequences and series and all that, that stuff. At least I can't remember that. I think it was new to me when I jumped into Calc 2. That was probably why. I wasn't exactly struggling it, but it just took some time to get used to. Math was just, it's still not my interest, but going up to college now, freshman year, I was a computer science major. Calc 1 I took, I would also say that I hated computer science. That was hence why I switched to math, because I think personally it felt easier for me now that I, build up all this knowledge and I know what I'm doing, and then, build up with that prerequisite, you can actually learn other stuff from there, which it was a good transition for me personally and mentally, so I don't stress myself up assuming if I did stay in the same major the entire 4 years, then that would have been hell. Yeah, so I breezed through calculus 1. I think that was the only math class I took in that first semester of my freshman year. That was a breeze. Second semester, Calc 2, not as bad because there was some stuff getting into the introduction of integrals, and then now we transition to the second half of the portion that I didn't know about, which was like the applications of integrals and dealing with sequences and series as well. Those were all just new stuff. Also matrices and linear algebra, that was also a new thing. It was also new too, matrices and linear algebra. I think it also gets you into more higher extent of proofs as well. For example, I think there was the first time I actually came across a question. It was the beginning of the semester learning. I think I had to prove some matrix, proof that it was I believe linearly independent. I don't remember the question. I do remember those keywords in that sentence, but that was when I knew that things are gonna be tough. It's gonna throw me in a loophole. But I made it past it, thankfully. So, but I think I got a B in that class. But I tried. I can. But it was still a fun class to learn. Don't get me wrong. Learning about matrices and then learning about determinants and the whole. What was there that I learned? Oh my god, it was a long time ago that I took linear algebra. I would want to. Go back and refresh my memory buying an undergrad linear algebra book, because last time I took that class was back in 2016. Yeah, I hated computer science. I struggled to do part 2 of that. I got a C. I was tired of it. Decided to switch majors to math, and I think my life was went easier from there. A lot of math classes I took: introduction to differential equations, calculus 3, calc 4. Then I got into introduction to proof writing. That was quite a turn there, because that's when things really kick it up a notch, because this is we're no longer in this world where we have to know formulas or apply formulas. You have to apply now theory into your answers whenever you're being asked a question. That was a tough time. I dropped that class that spring semester sophomore year because had a terrible teacher. Sorry, but I took a summer class of that again, but then I did a lot better because the teacher was great. I never really say how that transition began of why I like math. So switching to the math major was actually really where the pinnacle started. I took more math classes, of course, with some gen ed courses here and there. I didn't really care enough about it. My main thing was really I just wanted to focus on my major courses, and then that's it. I think it was also good that I actually stopped doing the private, going to my private tutor for help at that time. So because it helped me learn more independently than having to learn, having someone, kind of hold your hand and do this sort of thing. But of course, if you're stuck on something, you need help, and that's what happens to me. But I also want to learn things on my own rather than be that person that if they're giving a question on a homework and they don't know the answer, they literally just Google the answer or check it and then just copy the solution, just call it a day. Sometimes if I know this is gonna be weird coming saying for me that I do that too, but and I feel like I can't be alone on this, but the thing is that when I observe the solution, I don't actually be that person that just copies and just call it quits. What I usually like to do to help me understand what's going on with the problem and helps me actually learn math in general is because learning math is also dealing with patterns too, and with opening up with new ideas. I like to observe the solution, and I like to think to myself like, okay, how do we get from the start to the end? That's why I think myself one step at a time, thinking how do we transition from here to here to here, and so how do we get to the end goal, the solution of our problem. I do that a lot, but not for the sake of oh, I don't really care. I do care because I actually want to learn this, and hence this is why I'm telling you my personal story of why I love mathematics. I think it's fun. I think it opens new doors for me to on how I can open up my learning. So that was I guess that was also one method, but I always want to not depend on that always, because I also want to learn for myself and think for myself rather than again being dependent on others, that sort of thing. Yeah, so that transition to the majors, I think that's just really how it really stems upon how I grew and start to like math even more, where I am today, making videos for you guys. Now I will say this. Now I transitioned. Now going to junior year is when I started taking so in my college we have this thing called advanced calculus, so one variable and several variables. Personally, I think that's another way of saying that's the baby word of saying, hey, we're going to teach you everything about real analysis. Now I'm just going to give you just the benefit of the doubt and just say that I still suck at proof writing. I really do suck at proof writing. And I think that's also because I don't want to really badmouth this, but I don't know, my department just didn't really give the good structure on how to transition when you're in a math major. They say that if you take an introduction to modern algebra class, that was how you're supposed to learn how to write proofs, but I don't think that was really enough. I mean, because I know you guys know in modern algebra, you learn introduction, you learn stuff about divisibility, congruences, and then now you get to the stuff about rings and group theory, all that stuff. But it doesn't really extend to the prerequisite before you jump into those things. So learning stuff about, I think, proof writing, and generally you would learn stuff about how to deal with counting. Well, specifically understanding how odd numbers and even numbers work. Then it comes with some sets, building upon those sets, and then learning stuff with proof writing, the introduction, specifically when you learn stuff about truth tables, learning about quantifiers, conjunctions, disjunctions. I think that's the word, the and or. And then you learn to build those up with the numbers and sets as well before you can actually get yourself to bring stuff up learning about real numbers, writing proofs about sets. And then that's when you get to the upper advanced courses where it comes to applying that proof writing knowledge into stuff maybe modern algebra, linear algebra, analysis, real analysis. Ooh, that also brings me another thing. I remember I stopped by my private tutor just to chat not too long ago. He asked me what was my favorite math subject, and I never actually gave him the answer now that I think about it. Out of all specifically for all the classes I took in college. But I would have to say complex analysis. There's just something, I don't know. I'm going to sound a little vulgar, but there's just something sexy about, learning about complex numbers, the variables, even with the extension of polynomials, analytic continuity, limits with complex variables and integrals, the residue theory series dealing with complex variables, and contour integrals and dealing with, I remember, I think there was something talking about the stereographic projection. Yeah, there's just something about it that's just beautiful. Complex numbers, I know it's a whole nother extension of, it's one of the biggest sets out of all the numbers, bigger than real numbers itself. But yeah, I think complex analysis is just interesting. I don't know why. I think I want to own more textbooks of complex, analysis class of, complex analysis, textbooks, just so I can learn more. But I feel like if I want to actually, understand in a more of a theoretical sense, I would actually need to get past the point on how to learn how to actually do some proof writing. So yeah, real analysis, going back to what I said, real analysis, that was when I really had a tough time. I somehow got an A in that class. I guess I just worked hard, and then, but I feel like I don't want to say I didn't gain any information. I gained some, but I didn't gain everything that I learned in that class, just maybe like the tiny bits. Like when they teach you, I know that if you take a basic analysis course, the first thing they teach you or they want you to prove that the square root of 2 is irrational. At first, when I try to understand the proof, I didn't understand it, but I don't know why. It took I think a couple years until I finally grasped it. Now I can actually remember the proof of the square root of 2 is irrational. I don't know why it took so long. I actually, personally for myself, I have a slow learning process. That's also another thing with school. Everybody learns at a different pace. You can't expect anybody to just learn things, just quickly, just like that. Especially, it's even worse, especially when you're in grad school. Grad school was kind of, I did that same, stupid move again where I overestimated myself, thinking, math is easy. I think I won't have any trouble with, in grad school. But no, things turned a switch. But I eventually survived. I took analysis 1 and 2, a real analysis 1 and 2. That's the upper extension dealing with measure theory and all that stuff. Even with I think linear norms too. That's also in that conclusion. Took some complex analysis. I took a complex analysis class. Then I took a numerical linear algebra class. PDEs was actually an interesting class too. I will say that was also a fun class too. But I think I like complex analysis personally, just because everything they had to provide for you that's you never expected would be put out. But yeah, I don't know what else to add, but just I love math, and I don't think there will be ever a time where I won't stop liking math, because every day I just learn with the content I upload. I learn new things, and it's actually quite a fun time for me to learn, create content, learn things from a perspective that I would have never thought of to begin with. So that opens new ideas for me to keep in mind of. But yeah, I don't know how else to. I don't think I'll ever stop loving math. And to take away from this, if you have any hobbies or anything you like doing, you shouldn't stop. Don't stop liking what you love. If you love it, then love it. That's all I have to say. Don't let anybody tell you that this is stupid or all that stuff. Who gives a shit? The only person you should listen to is yourself. Trust your own instincts. What do you like? Do you like this? If you really want to do it, then do it. Then that's just how I apply. That's just how I apply my philosophy, my mentality to math. I like this stuff. So yeah, that's really all the story time. I just wanted to say, just thank you, for watching. If you enjoy, this content, please like, comment, and subscribe for more. I usually do vlogs, as you see in my channel banner for anybody visits, my main channel. I just write math videos. I sometimes eat and vlog. So, and here's the vlog. Here's the vlog that I bet none of you guys were expecting. But yeah, it's I'm still going to create more math videos for fun. There will be a point where I think I might want to change my content up a little bit. Well, it's still math, but it's more of the format that I'm thinking about fixing up, because I had some ideas that now that I have a new setup, that I actually have some things that I want to try and work around with. Hopefully, I think that's probably something you guys might be interested to. We'll see what happens. But I can't say whether that kind of stuff will come in soon or however far. It just whenever it's on the internet, it's on the internet. That's all I can say. But yeah, thanks for watching. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe if you haven't. Well, I make a lot of math videos. That's all it is. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, that's pretty cool if you ask me.